All right, so I can start? Okay, please start the time. Have you ever had something you loathed so much you wanted to discard it from existence? Perhaps an environmental crisis, or possibly a disability menu, or maybe even your math homework that your teacher set on a Friday. All of this can come true in the BBC comedy television series, Room 101, in which celebrities are invited to talk about their hate and to try to persuade the host to put these hates into oblivion in Room 101. This name is inspired by the torture room in George Orwell's novel, 1984, in which it's supposed to contain the worst thing in the world. If I had to choose something I distasted and cast into Room 101, I would choose nothing. Nothing should be put into Room 101 because of all the frustration it has given to everyone in the world without you even realizing, and I don't want it to limit us anymore. Think about this. Why do we need nothing when we can have the world full of some things and everything? For example, you wake up in the morning and you're lying on the bed. You realize you have nothing to do today. Normally, these days will be spent scrolling through Google Earth, trying to find your home without using the search button, looking at memes you have seen hundreds of times, or opening your fridge door and closing it very slowly so you can try to catch the light turn off. All of this is because you have nothing to do. So by putting nothing into Room 101, every day in your life will be spent efficiently, either having fun or doing something productive. The famous actor Bruce Lee once said, "If you love life, don't waste time, for time is what life is made up of." So spending a day hanging out with your friend at a museum is better than doing nothing. Furthermore, a human's average lifespan is 75 years, assuming you don't die from a horrible disease or from an accident, like looking at your phone while crossing the street and getting run over by a car. Please don't do that. That means you have around 27,394 days in your life to do what you want. There's 24 hours in a day. There's around 10 hours which is spent doing things. That means there's around 728,728 hours in your life to do what you want. That may sound like a lot, but it's actually not. Joseph Campbell once said, "Life is without meaning. You bring the meaning to it." So spend your days wisely because life is short. I know now that some of you might not know what you want to do in the future, or you don't really like the job you're having now. But that's why you were given the time so you can experience new things to find your inner talent. So spend your day wisely. By putting nothing into Room 101, you're giving everyone in the world a chance to become who they want to be, and to do what they want to do. If nothing was put into Room 101, you'll also be able to know how your friends are feeling. Sometimes you know your friends are angry or sad or just unhappy in general. And being a considerable friend, you'll probably go up to them and ask them, "What's wrong?" Most of the time, as my parents call them, moody teenagers will reply as nothing. But why say nothing when you're obviously holding back negative emotions? And being a friend, you're supposed to support and be there for each other. And sure, if you were in that scenario, you will want to know how they're feeling to support them too. By putting nothing into Room 101, you'll be able to know how they are feeling. And you'll be able to help them in the right ways. You won't have to worry about them having to go through hard times alone or having to hold all the negative emotions inside. So I know some of you might be thinking that this is forcing them to tell you everything. But sharing your emotions doesn't have to be telling your friends everything you're going through and all the problems you have. Sometimes a phrase as simple as "I'm not feeling well" instead of nothing can make you feel drastically better. Psychology expert Lisa Direct once said, "Sharing emotions can help release any anxiety you may be having." It can also help improve communication between people. So by putting nothing into room 101, you're giving everybody in the world a chance to be supported by one's friend. When I talk about nothing, I want to mention the true meaning of nothing. If you were asked to imagine or draw or present nothing, what would your drawer do? And I want you to think very carefully about this. Would it be a room that goes on forever and ever? It may be dark. It may be bigger than the universe. Or should I say multiverse? It can be drifting further and further away from everything you know. But I guess we will never know, since we won't know what it is and where it is, because there is nothing. Perhaps the most extreme example of nothing is locked-in syndrome. Locked-in syndrome, a disease where you can't move, can't speak, but your brain works. You're stuck in yourself. You watch the world around you change and grow, but you can't do anything. You feel useless. You feel that life is pointless. If living is not as worthwhile as dying. In 2014, in the morning newspaper Independent, it said, Tony Nicholson, who has suffered from locked-in syndrome for the past 7 years, was told by the judge he did not have the right to die. The strained, broken expression on his face was enough to tell the world that he had rather die than live as nothing. At bottom, I'd like to leave you with this. Do we really need nothing in this world? It makes us lazy. It makes us unmotivated. It wastes our time. It puts up a barrier between us and our friends and people we love and want to care for. It's something horrifyingly empty. Everything I mentioned above in the past 7 minutes is equivalent to nothing. And if we don't do something about it soon, humanity will soon be occupied by nothing, and we humans will cease to exist as something. So put nothing into room 101 before it's too late. Thank you.
So the second speaker, you can start whenever you are ready.
Hello, can you guys hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, can I please just restart the time? Okay. My speech begins now. When I was in elementary school, I was once a transfer student. As everyone knows that, it is quite hard for transfer students to fit in the class. At that time, I really wanted a friend, like a true friend, but I didn't know how to get one. So I decided to become more helpful. I thought if I was more helpful, people would like me more. It sounds pretty reasonable, right? However, helping is supposed to be a good thing, but when others take it for granted, it gets tricky. A few students in the class always let me to help them. I think it was like part of my job. I was way too little, and I would love to do anything to help them. So I started running errands, buying snacks for them. But there are times I felt lost. There are times I felt confused. There are times I wanted to refuse, but I didn't know how. You see, throughout my entire life, the whole society, the schools, the teachers all tell me that I should help others, and it is implied to refuse others. I didn't know how to refuse others. I didn't know how to say no to others. The school only taught me how to help others, but it did not tell me how to refuse others. Afterwards, I told my mother about it. She was shocked and told me that I should learn to say no. She told me that there isn't anyone who has any right to make me do anything that I do not want to. If I'm not in the mood of helping others, I could just politely refuse them. Thus, I did what she said. I rejected requests I considered to be rude or nonsensical. And as expected, those girls I considered friends left me directly. I was really sad at the time, but think back now. Pretty lucky, huh? As I grew up, more and more people started to ask me for help, and I began to understand what my mother's word really meant. At first, I chose to accept all the requests, just like what I did before. But when more and more requests become unreasonable, I chose to refuse. And here comes the most interesting part. Some of the people I helped before started to gossip once I said no to their request. They said it was mean. I wouldn't help others. I was distant and inaccessible. I felt confused. I felt hurt because what they said are totally not true. I saw this for a while. Then I figured out. You see, become true friends with you just because you are always willing to help them. They will just take your efforts for granted and continue to squeeze you in the future. And once you stop offering the help, people will stop blaming you. No one will cherish your help when it becomes cheap and too easy to get. A paying is valuable only when it is principled. So start to say no to unreasonable ones and don't let your help become cheap. I know a lot of people may have encountered the same situation as me, but very few of them said no. Due to multiple reasons, people choose to compromise and stay silent. In daily life, more relatives and friends always take advantage of our job. We choose to keep silent. In school, where our classmates always copy our homework and take it for granted, we choose to keep silent. In workplace, where our bosses always take credit for programs we worked on painstakingly, we choose to keep silent. We are afraid of saying no to others, even if it may hurt us. We say yes to everything because we don't want to come across as mean, lazy, boring, or uncaring. But it's exhausting. It leaves us one at a time to relax or accomplish personal goals that are important to us. Our life would be so much easier if we could just say no more often. To refuse others is to respect ourselves. Learning to refuse is being kind to ourselves. I know, although the shared importance of rejecting others is easier said than done. We may rehearse thousands of times in our mind about the scene when we turn down others' requests, but when people really ask us, we still have to agree. Let me think of excuses like, I ran a money these days. I had to pick my kids today. I had to go to movies later, or just don't reply them. We think we'll have the best excuses in the world, and there'll be a day we're gonna use them. But when that day really comes, we will just stand there. We will just hesitate. We will just agree to help. This kind of process happened to me a lot of times. So I came up with a two-step plan to help me. Step 1, think of something that I do not need to care about. Step 2, don't care about it. I know it may sound like a foolish and useless plan, but when we really think about it, it actually makes some sense. You see, there are a lot of things in our life that we do not need to care about and have nothing to do with them. For example, it's okay if you don't bring free coffee to a colleague every morning, since you're not the only one with a coffee shop nearby your house. And it's okay if you don't take care of your niece or little cousin on a day off, since your own work is not being a nanny. In other words, I understand that you have a lot of things to do every day and attend some mandatory meetings. But it is unnecessary for you to give birthday presents or send greetings on New Year Eve to someone that you do not like. at ease yourself. You have the right to do that. You have the right to say no. You have the right to say, I do not have time. I cannot afford it. I'm pretty tired now. Or just say it directly, I do not want to do it. No one can ever push you to anything that you do not want to. Do you know Newman? He was one of the founding fathers of education in the 19th century. He was a master of language, a master of thought. He said that to fall from a no is really as bad as saying, the sky won't fall. Your family won't stop loving you. Everyone will probably respect you and the time more. Hello? Okay.
I think host should just stop the timer for now. Let her reconnect.
Sorry, I cannot hear the second speaker's voice.
No, the second speaker, we cannot hear you.
I'm wondering if there's something wrong with her network or mine.
There is something wrong with her network.
Okay. So I stopped the timer.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hello? Oh, sorry, maybe it's my network. Can I just finish my ending? It's nearly my ending.
Yes, you may.
What? Please, pardon?
Yes, you may.
Okay, I'm really sorry. Okay, just start with my ending. Okay, start now. There is no Newman. He was one of the founding fathers of education in the 19th century. He was a master of language, a master of thought. He said that the fall from a no is really as bad as saying, the sky won't fall. Your family won't stop loving you. Everyone will probably respect you and the time more. I know rejecting others can be hard at first. You may feel awkward. You may feel uncomfortable. But life is short, so please do what you want.
If there's something wrong again?
Oh no, just I forgot to turn on my camera. But it's okay. Because it's nearly my ending.
So is that the end of the second speech? Finish it?
I think so. Yeah, the third speaker can come up.
Okay, the third speaker, you can continue with her speech.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Sorry,
I
can
can.
you hear me?
Yes, I can.
When can I start? Do I have to wait for a minute?
Whenever you're ready.
Okay, I'll start now. Hi everyone. The topic of my speech today is promoting dance education to Chinese minors. Well, the story dates back to about 2 years ago, when there was a time really dark for me. I felt confused and lost every day. To others, I was being completely normal. I was being a good daughter and a good student. I just do all the tasks they asked me to do, and I follow my daily routines. But to myself, I knew that I feel like sleepwalking. Every day looked exactly the same. And sometimes under great pressure, I even consider death as an option of relief. Because as I cannot find the reason, the purpose of doing all the tasks, I cannot see the meaning of my life. It was also a time when the grandfather of one of my friends passed away. And she felt desperate. She did not know what to do because before that, whenever she mentioned the word death on her dinner table, her parents would just ask her to shut up. But now when death truly came to her life, truly came to her family, none of them know what to do. They all freak out. No one had ever told us the meaning of life, just as no one has ever told us the meaning of death. In fact, we're not the only case. In China, over 71% of the parents refuse to talk about death with kids, and nearly no public school has an official death education curriculum. But it is also in China where 100,000 Chinese minors commit suicide every year, the highest number in the world. And young kids have that confusion, fear, and anxiety towards death. Clearly, there is a missing portion that conveys life and death in our different level of education. Yet life and death education is crucial in shaping one's and influence his or her whole lifetime. So my friend and I decided to set up an organization. We decided that if they're not going to teach us these, if adults are not going to teach us life and death education, we're going to learn it. And we're going to teach other Chinese minors so that they will not suffer what we have suffered. And then we started our plan and our research. But at first, we feel very confused because we do not know where to start, where to do. So my friends and I, we just go into the street and into the campus, and we randomly interview people at different ages from different fields. We first asked them about their opinion on life and death education. We found that among the minors we interviewed, 20% of them said that they had once thought of committing suicide, and 65% of them said that they had that fear, anxiety, and confusion towards death. While 80% of them said that they had never heard about word death or life education, not to mention receiving it. And then we asked people about what do they think are the reasons that resulted in these phenomenon. And people say, oh, maybe it's because of our culture. Because in Chinese culture, when we face death, we either choose to transcend it, like the ancient emperors who want to be immortal, or we choose to ignore it. We use all the things to cover it and pretend it didn't exist. And the students and teachers told me, oh, maybe it's because of the educational restraint, because our educational system is a test-oriented one. So we focus so much more on subjects that are easily tested or practical, but so less attention on special education like death education, sex education, or mental health education. And parents told us in family, they found it either hard or unimportant to discuss those special education. And lastly, we asked people, can they give us some suggestions on promoting the death education, or what type of education do they want to receive? And people said that maybe we can use like cartoons or colorful picture books or current hot issues as an entry point. Because in China, when you say death education, people freak out immediately. So we need to use something tender and warm and colorful to interest people and to let them accept it. And teenagers told us that because of the family and school's confrontation, they want us to contact them directly. They want us to like post videos on self-media that they are interested so that they can learn them themselves. And also, people students talk to us about what kind of education, what kind of textbook they want. They want something that truly interests them, that can meet their needs and make them feel a sense of participation. And also, I remember a little girl from primary school told me that when she watched the film Coco, she was very impressed because it's the first time that someone has ever taught us what the meaning of death. But also, it is transferred in a very tender, warm way, so that she felt very interested in it, and she felt the warmth. So we did a case study, we studied the film, and we learned how the Mexican culture revealed death to audience, to kids, in such a warm but also rational way. They said when we love, when we remember, those who pass away are not really gone, they're forever in our heart. So we really learned a lot from these. And based on what we found, we start to think that, oh, maybe we can have different strategies for Chinese minors at different ages. And then based on our study of kids' cognitive and psychological stages, we divide Chinese minor into 3 groups. The first one is kindergarten and primary school kids. For them, we draw our own original colorful picture books. We want to use such way that interests them. And maybe those stories, kids are able to understand those stories. We want to use this way to show them the love and work across life and death. And the second group is middle school students. For them, we designed our own original textbook, including several chapters like being mortal, saying goodbye, when breath becomes air, and bucket list, etc. And through these, we add a lot of games and discussions in our textbook because kids want to feel a sense of participation and have something that really interests them in the textbook. And we also do not just want the knowledge to stay only on the textbook, on the pages. We want them to come and influence middle school students' true life. So we hold lectures, discussions, and activities in school campus and public libraries with middle school students. We have a lot of great discussion and interesting interaction with them, that we try to make sure that these knowledge have truly influenced and changed their daily life. And lastly is our peer high school students. For them, we post a lot of videos on self-media website like Bilibili that we are really interested in. And we also set up our own website where people are free to leave their comments and messages and share their stories with us. And now, due to the global coronavirus, this is the first time we feel that death could be so near to us. So we decided to use it also as an opportunity to connect death education with the coronavirus, with the pandemic, so that we want people to not get so scared or anxious about it, but rather we can face it all together. We can face it so that we will strike and march for a better future. Until now, we have received some influence. Our videos and website have received altogether over 100,000 views. And we have influenced over 20,000 teenagers on and offline. And we have also received a lot of comments and messages from people saying that they wish they had received this kind of education earlier in their life. People saying that they will no longer hide it or avoid talking about death with their kids. People saying that this is the first time in their life to really reflect and think about the meaning of life and death, instead of doing the task, taking the exams, following everyday daily routines. It's the first time they look at themselves, look at and search for meaning. And we are very, very happy by it because we know we as high school students, we cannot build a giant organization and have huge influence, but rather we would like to be a ripple in a large pond that can raise people's awareness and reflection. So next time when people mention the word death, we no longer hide from it. We no longer get too scared or too anxious, but rather choose to face it. We choose to face it so that we try to search for the meaning of our life. And because we face it, we know how precious life could be and cherish it so much more. And because we face it, we make every day count. We live every day to the full. Just as a saying goes, an awareness of our mortality, of our finitude, can paradoxically move us to seek, and if necessary, to create the meaning that we so desperately crave. That's all. Thanks for your time.
Okay, thank you for your speeches, and I'm going to give a really brief comment to you, and then followed by other judges. And first speaker, talking about the room 101, nothing. I really appreciate that it's a really philosophical topic. You made people to reflect, to think about what are really important to their life, and how are we going to put effort into something that is important to us. The suggestion from me is that I hope you could explain that what room 101 means to everybody, and how it really helps people to reflect uh, to reflect their life, to think about that what things is important, are they wasting time, and what kind of efforts are they going to put into their lives to make it better, so that people could follow your guidance and to have a meaningful life. Some of the structure in your speeches are a little bit loose. Possibly you can reorganize it to make it sounding more structured for people to follow. The most part of it for me is a little bit like a stream of conscience that is not that so tightly bonded together. But I could get it as a really great topic, and I could get it as a really great content to just carry on and keep on doing that. Um, second speaker, you've been talking about learn to say no. It is also a very good topic because a lot of people are also like you when they're troubled by whether they have to listen to other people, whether they have to help other people whenever they are busy or not. So they do not know how to say no. My suggestion for you is that it is a good topic, but I do not really hear it that clearly about how good it is for you to not helping other people, like say no to other people. And I do not really get why saying no is better than saying yes. Because if I'm in the audience holding the opinion about like if I'm helping other people would helping me as well. And even if am not that free to help other people, but it doesn't really harm that much. So you need to show the audiences why saying no could bring significant benefits to them and could help them to live better, or could like helping them get rid of the trouble that they do not need to suffer from. And then other people might be more convinced about yeah, maybe in some of the times I could say no to the other people without harming my relationship with other people and not getting me in trouble and helping me to live a better life. That would be more complete and more convincing just to me. And for the third speaker, it's also a really good topic talking about the dance education, because in the Chinese educational system we do not really have it, and a lot of teachers are trying to avoid it. You've given really a lot of statistics, example, and personal stories related to the deaf education topic. My suggestion for you is that possibly you could add a little bit more acting, or like change a little bit of the tones in your speech, because in the very first I could see that you've been really sad when you're getting through this period of like other people's related to you dying. But later on I didn't see that much of like emotional changes or uh, other forms of acting into it. You could possibly adding it that could help your speech to be more be more likely to listening to the content you're trying to express. That's pretty much what I.
So I'll briefly talk about it. So from the first speaker, I kind of like your content is a very broad topic and a little bit too broad as in your delivery, like you're linked to like very on the ground examples, like what happening to you or like what happens to people around you, and like specific movements that people should do in order to respond to this nothing idea of nothing. Yeah, and for the second speaker, you have a lot of like you started with a very personal experience, but you didn't say like how this change actually impacts you later, and it didn't say like why this change is needed. It's just saying, okay, yes, we need to say no, but say no needs a degree is like not gonna be like you're gonna say no to everything, or it is gonna be you're say yes to everything. I think the topic should kind of focus on having a balance between yes and no could be better. And also for the last speaker, I really love this topic. Like I do agree with it. And also I like your delivery. You have like a certain level of control over your voice. And yeah, I think you have both quotes, content, and also personal experience. I love like the example usage are kind of mature. Yeah, I think that's it for me.
Okay, I'll just add my little comment. I think the judges have already said it all, but so the first speaker, I think you actually did a great job. I like the uniqueness in how you address time, and then you brought it down to room 101. And as we can all relate to what the importance of time and the significance of time as well. So I think you actually did a great job, and it was kind of like unique. And the second speaker as well, I like the fact that you brought up this topic because it's mostly difficult to say no sometimes. Like, people actually take advantage of you. People take advantage of your kindness, especially when you don't say no. But as the other judges said, why do you have to say no? Like, what's actually the essence of saying no? I mean, you could say yes, and then it wouldn't be like they're taking advantage of you. So I think you could also work on that as well. And the third speaker, I like the fact that your topic was much more like a research where you had to take other people's views into consideration, and then also raise awareness about life and death, which is a very important and crucial topic that people actually don't really talk about. And I think you all did a great job, and yeah, all the best.